301. A passionate red-headed girl, when you kissed her, her senses would whirl, and her twat would get wet, her twat would get wet, and would wiggle and fret, and her cunt lips would curl and unfurl. How lovely. 302. There was a young lady named Gloria, who was had by Sir Gerald du Maurier, and then by 6 men, Sir Gerald again, and the band at the Waldorf Astoria. 303. Thank God for the Duchess of Gloucester. She obliges all who accost her. She welcomes the prick of Tom, Harry, or Dick, or Baldwin, or even Lord Astor. 304. The latest reports from Good Hope states that apes there have pricks thick as rope. It's kind of slow. The latest reports from Good Hope state that apes there have pricks thick as rope, and fuck high, wide, and free from the top of one tree to the top of the next. What a scope. 305. A newlywed couple from Goshen spent their honeymoon sailing the ocean. In 28 days they got laid 80 ways. Imagine such fucking devotion. Oh, that deserves a sip of wine. Red, red wine. I have my Facebook up. Girls are carrying dildos to school. You won't believe why. I don't care why. I'm just glad they're carrying. She must have a permit, because she's carrying it openly. Okay, back to the matter at hand. 306. There was a young fellow named Grimes, who fucked his girl 17 times in the course of a week, and this isn't to speak of assorted venereal crimes. 307. There was a young lady named Hatch, who would always come through in a scratch. If a guy wouldn't neck her, she'd grab up his pecker and shove the damn thing up her snatch. Good for you. Or good on you. 308. There was a young lady named Hilda, who went for a walk with a builder. He knew that he could, and he should, and he would, and he did, and he goddamn near killed her. Rector damn near killed her. 309. Oh, Latin. Cum hilde autumn ambulabat. Ambulabat. Homo qui edificabat. Dixit volbat, debet et potbat, sic ildusbat, statum fashbat. Sed virginum pinesibat. Don't know. Didn't read it right. Moving on, 310. I know of a fortunate Hindu. I'm doing bad Asian dialect. Oh. I know of a fortunate Hindu who is sought in the towns that he's been to by the ladies he knows, who are thrilled to the toes by the tricks he can make his foreskin do. That is a good one. I like it a lot. 311. If you're speaking of actions immoral, then how about giving the laurel to doughty Queen Esther? No 3 men could best her, 1 fore and 1 aft, and 1 oral. 312. There was a young miss from Johore who'd lie on a mat on the floor. In a manner uncanny, she'd wobble her fanny and drain your nuts dry to the core. Sounds nice. 313. There was a young fellow of Kent, whose prick was so long that it bent. So to save himself trouble, he put it in double, and instead of coming, he went. I've heard that one before in my life. Let's sing it again. There was a young fellow of Kent, whose prick was so long that it bent. So to save himself trouble, he put it in double, and instead of coming, he went. Probably off key, but I don't care. 314. There was a young man of Kildare who was fucking a girl on the stair. The banister broke, but he doubled his stroke and finished her off in midair. 315. A young man of I can't even spell it. Lanferpingle, while bent over plucking a dingle, had the whole Ice did fod, taking turns at his pod while they sang some impossible jingle. Clever. 316. There once were two brothers named Lons, who bugged each other at once. When asked to account for this intricate mount, they said, assholes are tighter than cunts. I went from German to poor man's Arnold. 317. There was a young lady named Mabel who liked to sprawl out on the table, then cry to her man, stuff it in all you can. Get your bollocks in too if you're able. Bless her. A little more wine. Oh, it's so yummy. 318. An impotent Scot... Oh, it's a great thing there. An impotent Scot named McDougal had to husband his sperm and be frugal. He was gathering semen to gender a he-man by screwing his wife through a bugle. 319. There once was a girl named McGoffin, who was diddled amazingly often. She was rogered by scores, who'd been turned down by whores, and was finally screwed in her coffin. Get it? It's a play on words, boy. It's a great, great, great thing to be screwed. 320. A stout Gaelic warrior, Macpherson, was having a captive, a person, who was not averse, though she had the curse, and he'd breeches of bristling furs on. There was a young Scot in Madrid, who got 55 fucks for a quid. When they said, are you faint? He replied, no, I ain't, but I don't feel as good as I did. 322. There was a young fellow of Mayence who fucked his own arse in defiance, not only of custom and morals dead bust him, but most of the known laws of science. She blinded me with science, beep boop boop. 323 makes you want to pee. The woman who lives on the moon is still cherishing... The woman who lives on the moon is still cherishing the balloon of an earthling who'd come and given her some, but had dribbled away all too soon. Oh, it's a sad story. 324. There is a young faggot named Mose who insists that you fuck his long nose. And you'll double the joy of this lecherous boy if you'll tickle his balls with your toes. Ticky, ticky, ticky. I think he likes it. 325. There was an old man of the mountain who figged himself into a fountain. 15 times had he spent, still he wasn't content. He simply got tired of the counting. 326. There was a young lady named Nance who learned about fucking in France. And when you'd insert it, she'd squeeze till she hurt it and shoved it right back in your pants. Serves you right. Nasty boy. Yes. 327. A studious professor named Nestor bet a whore all his books he could best her, but she drained out his balls and skipped up the walls, beseeching poor Nestor to rest her. 328. The late Brigham Young was no neuter, no faggot, no fairy, no fruiter. Where 10,000 virgins succumbed to his urgings, there now stands the great state of Utah. Utah. You tell me. 329. There was a young girl of Newcastle whose charms were declared universal. While one man in front wired into her cunt, another was engaged at her arsehole. 330. There was a young girl from New York who plugged up a cunt with a cork. A woodpecker or two made the grade, it is true, but it totally baffled the stork. Oh, it's a two-parter. Till along came a man who presented a tool that was strangely indented.
With a dizzying twirl, he punctured that girl, and thus was the corkscrew invented. Oh, I didn't know that.
332. There was a young girl named Eau Claire,
whose body was covered with hair. It was really quite fun to probe with one's gun, for her quimmy might be anywhere. Hunt and pecker. 333, that's half of 666, that's half of the devil in me. Already,
There once was a gay young Parisian who screwed an appendix incision, and the girl of his choice could hardly rejoice at this horrible lack of precision. Don't even know what that dialect was. It's not even French.
334. While spending the winter at Pa, or maybe it's pronounced Po, Lady Pamela forgot to say, "No!" So the head porter made her, the second cook laid her, the waiters were all hanging low. 335. There was a young girl of Penzance who boarded a bus in a trance. The passengers fucked her, likewise the conductor, the driver shot off in his pants. Shut off. The Shah of the Empire of Persia lay for days in a sexual merger, when the Notch asked the Shah, "Won't you ever withdraw?" He replied with a yawn, "It's inertia." 337. A remarkable race are the Persians. They have such peculiar diversions. They screw the whole day in the regular way and save up the nights for perversions. Oh, it's tasty. There was a young girl of Rangoon who was blocked by the man in the moon.
Well, it has been great fun,
she remarked when he'd done,
but I'm sorry you came quite too soon. Turned into an old lady.
339. There was a young lady named Ransom who was rogered 3 times in a hansom. When she cried out for more, a voice from the floor said, "My name is Simpson, not Samson." 340. A maestro directing in Rome had a quaint way of driving it home. Whoever he climbed had to keep her tail timed to the beat of his old metronome.
How musical. 341. Last night,
said a lassie named Ruth,
in a long-distance telephone booth, I enjoyed the perfection of an ideal connection. I was screwed, if you must know the truth.
342.
Said a lesbian lady,
"It's sad, of all the girls that I've had, none. Said a lesbian lady, "It's sad, of all of the girls that I've had, none gave me the thrill of real rapture until I learned how to be a tribad." Tribad, I don't know what that means. 343. There once was a handsome young seaman, who with ladies was really a demon. In peace or in war, at sea or on shore, he could certainly dish out the seaman. 344. Said a girl being had in a shanty, "My dear, you have got it in slanty." He replied, "I can use any angle I choose. I ride as I please. I'm Durante." 345. An old couple just as Shrovetide were having a peace when he died. The wife for a week sat tight on his peak and bounced up and down as she cried. What a sad tale. 346. My wife is an amorous soul, on fire for an African's pole. She told a coon chauffeur that he was her gopher, and say, did he go for her hole? As he creamed my wife's cunt, the coon said, I could fuck this until she was dead.
As he plugged up her trough, I jerked myself off.
If that's how you feel, go ahead.
348.
There was a young lady of Spain who was fucked by a monk in a drain. They did it again and again and again and again and again and again.
I like how that elevated.
349. Mrs. Galsworthy rented a suite in a building devoid of all heat. So he fucked for 3 months, sucked 39 cunts, which solved his problem quite neat.
There you go. You put your mind to it, you can, problem solve.
350.
There was a young lady from Sydney who could take it right up to her kidney, but a man from Quebec shoved it up to her neck. He had a long one now, didn't he? 351. There was a young man of Tibet, and this is the strangest one yet. His prick was so long, and so pointed and strong, he could bugger 6 Greeks and brochette. Oh, is that like shish kebab?
352. 'Tis said that the Imperior Titius had a penchant for pleasantries vicious. He took 2 of his nieces and fucked them to pieces and said it was simply delicious.
353.
There was a young man from Toledo who was cursed with excessive libido. To fuck and to screw and to fornicate too were the 3 major points of his credo.
354.
A very young man of Touraine had vesicles no one could drain. With an unbroken flow, thrice the course he would go, then roll over and start in again.
He could probably solve that drought problem in California.
Dinner's repeating.
Oh my, that wine is tasty.
355.
Far, it's supposed to be a woman's voice. Far dearer to me than my treasure,
the heiress declared,
is my leisure. Far dearer to me than my treasure, the heiress declared. The heiress declared is my... Let's start again. Far dearer to me than my treasure, the
heiress declared,
is my leisure. For then I can screw the whole Harvard crew. They're slow, but that lengthens the pleasure.
356. A certain old harpy from Omsk, who was wholly unable to cumsk, would ecstatically shout when a samovar spout was shoved up her Muscovite rumpsk.
357.
A young man with a passion quite vast used to talk about making it last, till one day he discovered his sister uncovered, and now he fucks often and fast.
358. That's space noise.
A galactic patrolman from Venus had a hyper-extensible penis. Of all forms of life, which he'd taken to wife, he preferred a mere woman. He preferred a mere woman from meanness.
Biddy, biddy, biddy. 359.
The sex of the asteroid vermin is exceedingly hard to determine. The Galactic Patrol simply fucks any hole that will possibly let all the sperm in.
And finally, for this session,
360. There was a young fellow from Wark who, when he screws, has to bark. His wife is a bitch with a terrible itch, so the town never sleeps after dark.
Oh, how lovely.
A 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour.
There